You have been told that wealth is about timing, or leverage, or finding the right mentor who knows the secret moves, but Scripture offers something entirely different. It offers a path that does not promise speed. It does not celebrate shortcuts. It speaks to those who understand that building wealth is inseparable from building character, and that both require something the culture no longer values: patience under pressure. This is for education and spiritual reflection, not financial advice. The Bible does not teach wealth accumulation as a goal. It teaches stewardship as an act of worship. Every dollar is a test of priority. Every decision reveals whether you trust God's provision or your own hustle. And most people fail this test not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack endurance. They want the outcome without the years of obedience. They want the harvest without the planting season. They want the promotion without the posture. The principles you are about to encounter are ancient. They have been tested across kingdoms, famines, empires, and collapses. They do not bend to market trends or economic cycles. They are grounded in the fear of the Lord, and they require something modern finance rarely demands: surrender. You will see how these principles operate in Scripture, how they are misunderstood today, and how applying them slowly can lead to a stability that most people never experience. This is not about getting rich quickly. It is about becoming the kind of person who can be trusted with much because you were faithful with little. It is about honoring God when no one is watching, storing up when others are spending, and refusing to compromise your integrity for comfort. Wealth built this way does not vanish when the market crashes. It does not collapse under scandal. It endures because it was never about the money. It was about obedience. Honor God with your first fruits before any expense. You receive your paycheck and the pressure is immediate. Rent, groceries, the car payment, insurance. The list of demands stretches out in front of you, and every dollar feels spoken for before it even touches your account. So you make a calculation. God can wait. He understands. You will give when there is margin. But Proverbs 3:9 says, "Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops." This is not about leftovers. This is not about convenience. The first fruits were the best portion of the harvest, given before the farmer knew how much would remain. It was an act of trust. Exodus 23:19 commanded Israel to bring the best of the first fruits to the house of the Lord, and 2 Chronicles 31:5-6 records the result. When the people obeyed, abundance followed. Deuteronomy 26:1-3 outlines the ritual. You take the first, you present it, and you declare your dependence on God's faithfulness. Not your strategy, not your backup plan. His provision. The principle is simple but severe. When you give God the first, you declare He is first. When you give Him the leftovers, you declare He is optional. This was never about percentages or religious obligation. It was about whether you believed God was the source or whether you believed you were. Today, most people reverse the order. They pay everyone else first and hope something is left over for God. They treat generosity as a luxury, something they will get to when they feel secure. But security is precisely what they never find, because they built their foundation on self-reliance. Others calculate their tithe after taxes, after expenses, after everything they think they deserve. They negotiate with God like He is a creditor they can bargain with. The reflection is uncomfortable. If God is not first in your finances, He is not first in your life. And if He is not first, then you are building on sand. The practice is straightforward. Calculate your income, set aside the portion for God immediately, and then budget the rest. Automate it if trust is weak. Make it the first transaction, not the last. Do this in faith, expecting nothing, demanding nothing. Let it be an act of worship, not a transaction. Which principle challenges you the most when it comes to giving to God first? Store grain in times of plenty for seasons of scarcity. Everyone celebrates the surplus. The raise comes through, the bonus lands, the tax refund arrives, and the instinct is immediate. Spend it. Upgrade. Reward yourself. You earned this, but the celebration becomes a trap because surplus is not a reward. It is a test of whether you understand the rhythm of provision and famine. Genesis 41 records one of the most strategic financial moves in Scripture. Pharaoh dreamed of 7 fat cows devoured by 7 lean cows, and Joseph interpreted it. 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine. Genesis 41:47-49 says, Joseph collected all the food during the years of abundance and stored it in the cities. He gathered grain like the sand of the sea, so much he stopped measuring it. Not because he was greedy, but because he understood timing. Genesis 41:53-57 records what happened next. The famine came, and Egypt survived because Joseph stored when others spent. He did not wait for the crisis to begin planning. He prepared in the plenty. The principle is clear. Abundance is not meant to be consumed. It is meant to be stored for the lean season. Proverbs 21:20 says, The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Storing is an act of humility. It admits that you will not always be in this season. It admits that provision has rhythms, and ignoring those rhythms is foolish. Modern culture despises this. The message is always consume now, finance later. If you have extra, you are supposed to upgrade your lifestyle immediately. Bigger house, better car, more vacations. The assumption is that tomorrow will be just like today, or better. No one talks about layoffs, market corrections, medical emergencies, or slow seasons. And when those arrive, people are blindsided because they spent every dollar of the surplus. The truth is simple. If you store nothing, you survive nothing. The practice begins with setting aside a percentage of every increase, not just income. When the bonus comes, store it. When the refund lands, do not touch it. Build 6 months of expenses, then 12. Do not announce it. Do not brag about it. Let it sit quietly, waiting for the moment it is needed. That is wisdom. The borrower becomes servant to the lender. Debt is sold as a tool, a way to get what you want now and pay for it later. It is marketed as leverage, opportunity, freedom. But Proverbs 22:7 strips away the illusion. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. This is not metaphor. This is function. When you owe, you serve. Your decisions are no longer fully yours. Your income is already claimed before you earn it. You do not have financial freedom, you have financial obligation. The word slave is deliberate. In the ancient world, debt slavery was real. If you could not repay, you forfeited your freedom. Exodus 21:2-6 describes the law of the Hebrew servant. A man could sell himself into slavery for 6 years to pay a debt. Leviticus 25:39-43 warns against treating debtors harshly, but it acknowledges the reality. Debt creates dependency. Proverbs 22:26-27 warns against pledging security for another's debt, because if they default, you lose your bed. The stakes are real. Debt does not care about your intentions. It only cares about payment. The principle is direct. Every dollar you borrow is a claim against your future income. You are not building wealth. You are building obligation. And the longer you carry debt, the more of your life is spent working to repay someone else. Today, debt is normalized. Student loans, car loans, credit cards, mortgages. People carry 6 figures of debt and treat it like a credential. The narrative is that smart people use debt strategically, that it is how you get ahead. But most people are not strategic. They are desperate. They finance because they do not want to wait, and then they spend the next decade in bondage. Others use credit cards for convenience and pretend they will pay it off. But the average household carries a balance, paying interest on groceries they ate months ago. The path is narrow. Avoid debt whenever possible. If you must borrow for a home, keep the payment small and pay it off early. Do not finance depreciating assets. Live below your means, delay gratification, and refuse to serve the lender. That is freedom. Diligent hands bring wealth, but lazy hands bring poverty. The world loves the story of the lucky break, the person who got discovered, the startup that exploded overnight, the inheritance that changed everything. But Proverbs 10:4 tells a different story. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Not lucky hands, not connected hands. Diligent hands. The word for diligent in Hebrew is charutz, meaning sharp, decisive, industrious. It speaks to someone who works with focus and persistence, not hoping for a shortcut. Proverbs 12:24 says, Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor. Proverbs 13:4 adds, A sluggard's appetite is never filled, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied. Proverbs 21:5 concludes, The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. The pattern is consistent across Scripture. Work matters. Effort compounds. And those who refuse to work will reap the consequences of their refusal. This is not about talent. It is about consistency. It is about showing up when motivation is gone and doing the work no one applauds. The principle is simple. Wealth is usually the result of years of quiet, disciplined effort. Not genius, not luck, just steady, patient work that most people quit too early to see the fruit of. Diligence is the refusal to take shortcuts. It is the commitment to finish what you start, even when it is boring. But culture romanticizes the opposite. Get-rich-quick schemes, day trading, side hustles that promise passive income with no real effort. People want the result without the process. They want the wealth without the discipline, and when it does not work, they blame the system, the economy, or their circumstances. But Proverbs does not give them that option. It says, your hands determine your outcome. If you are lazy, you will be poor. If you are diligent, you will build something. The application is direct. Identify the work God has given you and do it with excellence. Show up on time. Finish what you start. Do not complain. Do not cut corners. Let your reputation be built on reliability, and let your hands do the talking. That is how wealth is built slowly. Contentment with godliness is great gain. You chase the upgrade. The better job, the bigger house, the newer car, and every time you arrive, the satisfaction lasts a week, maybe a month before the hunger returns, because what you are chasing is not actually wealth. It is approval, status, the feeling that you have finally made it. But the target keeps moving, and the chase never ends. 1 Timothy 6:6 cuts through the noise. But godliness with contentment is great gain. Not godliness and wealth, not godliness plus success, godliness with contentment. The verse continues in 6:7-8. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. This is not a call to poverty. It is a call to stop measuring your worth by your portfolio. Philippians 4:11-12 shows Paul learned contentment in every circumstance, whether well-fed or hungry, in plenty or in want. Hebrews 13:5 commands, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. The principle is severe. If you cannot be content with little, you will not be content with much. Contentment is not passivity. It is the refusal to let discontentment drive your decisions. It is the ability to look at what you have and say, this is enough, even while you work toward more. It is peace in the present while you steward the future. Without it, wealth becomes a trap, because no amount is ever sufficient. The culture hates this. Every advertisement, every influencer, every comparison on social media is designed to make you feel inadequate. You are told that contentment is settling, that ambition requires dissatisfaction. But Scripture says the opposite. It says discontent leads to ruin. 1 Timothy 6:9-10 warns that those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. The path forward is simple. Practice gratitude daily. Name what you have and thank God for it. Stop comparing. Let contentment guard your heart while diligence guides your hands. That is freedom. What area of your life struggles most with contentment? Plans fail without counsel, but succeed with many advisors. You have a plan. It makes sense to you. You have thought it through, weighed the options, and convinced yourself this is the right move. So you move forward alone, confident in your own judgment. And 6 months later, you are staring at the wreckage, wondering how you missed the warning signs everyone else saw. Proverbs 15:22 is direct. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Not some advisors. Many. Proverbs 11:14 adds, for lack of guidance, a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors. Proverbs 20:18 says, plans are established by seeking advice, so if you wage war, obtain guidance. The pattern is consistent. Wisdom is not found in isolation. It is found in community, in the counsel of those who see what you cannot, who challenge your assumptions, and who speak truth when you are blinded by your own ambition or fear. The principle is humbling. You do not have all the answers. You have blind spots, biases, emotions that cloud judgment. And if you refuse to seek counsel, you are guaranteeing that those weaknesses will sabotage your plans. Seeking advice is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the acknowledgement that God often speaks through other people, and refusing to listen is pride disguised as confidence. But most people avoid counsel because they do not want to be challenged. They want affirmation, not correction. So they either ask no one, or they only ask people who will tell them what they want to hear. They treat advice like a formality, not a safeguard. And when the plan collapses, they blame circumstances, timing, or bad luck. But Proverbs does not give them that excuse. It says the plan failed because you refused counsel. The application is straightforward. Before making any major financial decision, seek input from at least 3 people who are wiser, more experienced, or further ahead than you. Not friends who will affirm you, not people who benefit from your decision. Seek those who will ask hard questions and tell you what you do not want to hear. Listen without defensiveness. Weigh their counsel seriously, then decide. That is how plans succeed. Count the cost before building your tower. You see the opportunity and your heart races. This is it. The breakthrough. The move that will change everything. So you jump. You commit. You sign the contract, take the loan, launch the venture, and only later do you realize you did not have the resources to finish what you started. Now you are trapped halfway, with a foundation and no building, and everyone watching can see you failed. Luke 14:28-30 tells the story. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will begin to mock you, saying, "This person began to build and wasn't able to finish." Jesus was teaching about the cost of discipleship, but the principle applies to every significant decision. Count the cost, not just the start, the finish. Most people calculate what it takes to begin. Few calculate what it takes to complete. The principle is sobering. Starting is easy. Finishing requires resources most people underestimate. Time, money, energy, endurance. And if you do not count the full cost before you begin, you will run out halfway and be forced to quit in public failure. Proverbs 21:5 warns, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." Haste skips the counting. Diligence counts twice. Today, people start businesses without counting operating costs. They buy houses without calculating maintenance, taxes, and repairs. They take on projects without asking if they have the margin to sustain them. The culture celebrates the launch, not the completion. It rewards the announcement, not the follow-through. So people start things they cannot finish, and the wreckage accumulates. The path is clear. Before you commit, sit down and count. Write out every cost, not just financial. What will this require of your time, relationships, focus, and energy? Do you have enough to finish, or are you hoping it works out? If you cannot count the cost honestly, do not start. Wait until you can. That is wisdom. How do you decide when an opportunity is worth the full cost? Faithful with little means, faithful with much. You are waiting for the big opportunity, the promotion, the inheritance, the deal that will finally give you the platform you deserve. So you coast in the small things. You cut corners on the details. No one sees. You tell yourself it does not matter because it is not important yet. But what you do not realize is that the small things are the test, and you are failing it. Luke 16:10 is unambiguous. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. This is not about scale. It is about character. How you handle $5 reveals how you will handle 5,000. How you manage a small responsibility shows whether you can be trusted with a larger one. Matthew 25:21 records the reward for faithfulness. "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things." The progression is not random. It is earned. You prove yourself in the small before you are given the large. The principle cuts deep. God does not promote the ambitious. He promotes the faithful. And faithfulness is demonstrated in the mundane, the overlooked, the tasks that no one applauds. If you despise the small assignments, you disqualify yourself from the big ones. If you are careless with little, you will be careless with much. The test is not whether you can dream big. It is whether you can be trusted with small. But culture despises this. Everyone wants the shortcut, the big break, the opportunity that skips the grind. They want to manage millions before they have learned to manage hundreds. They want the title before they have proven the character. And when the opportunity comes and they fail spectacularly, they blame everyone but themselves. But Scripture says the issue was not the opportunity. It was the unfaithfulness in the little that preceded it. The practice is simple. Be faithful where you are. Manage your small budget with integrity. Show up on time to the job no one notices. Finish the tasks that do not build your brand. Let faithfulness become your reputation and trust God with the promotion. That is the path. The wise store up choice food and olive oil. You live paycheck to paycheck, not because you earn too little, but because you spend everything you make. Every dollar that comes in flows out immediately. There is no buffer, no margin, no reserve. And when the emergency comes, when the car breaks down or the job ends, you are forced to borrow, to panic, to scramble, because you consumed everything instead of storing anything. Proverbs 21:20 draws the contrast sharply. The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Not ordinary food. Choice food, the best portion. Olive oil was valuable, used for cooking, light, medicine, and offerings. To store it meant exercising restraint when abundance was present. It meant saying no to immediate consumption for the sake of future security. The fool does the opposite. He gulps it down. He consumes everything now, trusting tomorrow will take care of itself. But tomorrow rarely does. Proverbs 13:11 adds, "Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it." The wise build slowly. The fool spends quickly. This principle is about delayed gratification. The ability to resist the pressure to consume everything now because you understand that security comes from accumulation, not consumption. It is the refusal to live like there is no tomorrow, even when everyone around you does. Storing is an act of faith that God will honor discipline. The modern economy fights this. You are told to spend, to stimulate, to live your best life now. Saving is treated as hoarding. Frugality is mocked as cheap. The assumption is that life is short, so enjoy it while you can. But this mindset leaves people vulnerable, fragile, and one crisis away from collapse. They store nothing because they believe consumption is the point. But Scripture says the wise store. Not hoard, not obsess. Store. The practice is simple. Set aside a percentage of every income. Start with 5% if 10 feels impossible. Build 3 months of expenses, then 6, then 12. Store it quietly. Do not announce it. Let it be your safety net, your hedge against disaster. That is wisdom. Which financial habit would help you store more consistently? Cast your bread upon many waters. You want certainty. A single investment that will never fail. One income stream that will always provide. One plan that guarantees success. So you put everything into one basket and pray nothing goes wrong. But life does not work that way. Markets shift, industries collapse, jobs disappear. And when your single bet fails, you lose everything because you never spread the risk. Ecclesiastes 11:1 offers ancient wisdom. Cast your bread upon the waters, for after many days you will find it again. The image is of a merchant sending cargo across multiple trade routes, trusting that even if some ships are lost, others will return with profit. Verse 2 makes it explicit. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. 7 is completeness. 8 is beyond completeness. It is the call to diversify broadly, to spread risk across multiple channels, because you cannot predict which will succeed and which will fail. Proverbs 11:24 says, "One person gives freely yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly but comes to poverty. The one who scatters increases. The one who hoards everything in one place loses." The principle is clear. Concentration creates vulnerability. Diversification creates resilience. You do not put all your resources in one place, one strategy, one opportunity. You spread them, not because you doubt any single one, but because you acknowledge uncertainty. You cannot control outcomes. You can only control how you position yourself to survive when outcomes do not go as planned. But people resist this. They want the big win, the single breakthrough that changes everything. They pour all their time, money, and energy into one venture and assume it cannot fail. And when it does, they are destroyed. Others refuse to diversify because it feels like lack of faith, like hedging their bets. But Scripture does not call diversification doubt. It calls it wisdom. It is the acknowledgement that you do not know the future, and humility prepares accordingly. The application is direct. Do not rely on a single income source. Build multiple streams where possible. Do not invest everything in one stock, one property, one business. Spread it. Give in multiple directions. Serve in multiple capacities. Let your life be distributed across many waters, trusting that God will bring return where He wills. That is stewardship. You came looking for a formula, a system that guarantees wealth if you follow the steps precisely. But what you found instead is something far more demanding. A call to build slowly, to work faithfully, to give generously, to save wisely, and to trust deeply. These principles do not promise speed. They do not offer shortcuts. They require years of quiet obedience when no one is watching and nothing seems to be changing. They demand that you become a different kind of person, one who values character over convenience, faithfulness over fame, and stewardship over status. Wealth built this way does not arrive overnight. It compounds. It endures. It survives the collapses that destroy those who built on haste, greed, and pride. And when it finally comes, it comes with peace because it was never about the money. It was about becoming someone God could trust with much because you proved faithful with little. Or if some topics did not make this list, or there are topics you want us to feature, please leave them in the comments. If you like our content, consider subscribing. The question is not whether these principles work. The question is whether you will work them. Will you honor God first, even when the bills are pressing? Will you store grain when everyone else is spending? Will you refuse debt when everyone else is financing? Will you stay diligent when the work is boring? Will you seek counsel when your pride wants to move alone? Will you count the cost before you commit? Will you be faithful in the small things no one applauds? The principles are here. The path is clear, but will you walk it when the culture mocks you, when your friends do not understand, and when the results take longer than you hoped? That is the test, not whether you know the principles, but whether you will live them when it costs you something.